Vitamin D deficiency is linked to premature death. Over a 14-year follow-up period, researchers found that the risk for death significantly decreased with increased vitamin D concentrations, with the strongest effects seen among those with severe deficiencies. When you take a deep whiff of your morning coffee, the smell of those fresh roasted beans darts into parts of the brain responsible for emotional and memory processing, but our other senses don't work in the same way. That's why smell can trigger a happy memory more quickly than touching the hot coffee mug or tasting that first sip.
Scientists suggest that there are a number of reasons that our bodies treat scent differently than other senses. From hunting and gathering food to finding healthy mates, linking smells with memories that stir up desire, happiness, or even fear is biologically useful for humans. Humans have one other thing to consider when the scent is at play: context is key. No matter where we go on the planet, there are stunning plants, flowers, and animals that catch our attention. These are two very important aspects of any ecosystem. Of all the living organisms on the planet, the most commonly seen by us are plant life and animal life. Heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women in the United States. While often thought of as one illness, heart disease is an umbrella term that covers a range of heart conditions. These include diseases of the blood vessels, including coronary artery disease and peripheral artery disease, and so on.
As technology keeps growing, political and economic leaders have utilized cinema in changing and shaping people's outlooks either for their own benefit or for the benefit of the people. Quality translations are also readily available and extremely affordable for everyone these days, which makes it easy for filmmakers to reach their target audiences from all corners of the world in their mother tongue. Computer and smartphone-based treatments appear to be effective in reducing symptoms of depression, and while it remains unclear whether they are as effective as face-to-face psychotherapy, they offer a promising alternative to address the growing mental health needs spawned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The tropics are becoming hotter due to a combination of warming associated with deforestation and climate change, and that can reduce the ability of outdoor workers to perform their jobs safely. Researchers are estimating how many safe working hours people living in the tropics have lost due to local temperature changes associated with the loss of trees. Are an animal's natural navigational skills confined to its home habitats, or are they universal? The researchers took the idea a step further and created a set of wheels underneath a goldfish tank with a camera system to capture and translate the fish's movements into forward, backward, and side-to-side directions to the wheels.
Team members that exhibit what psychologists refer to as negative affect engage in critical and persistent thought that enables them to recognize issues that require resolution. Team members with positive affect, on the other hand, engage in broad and flexible thinking that widens their scope of knowledge and enables them to make novel and imaginative connections. Most of the food you eat is broken down into sugar and released into your bloodstream. When your blood sugar goes up, it signals your pancreas to release insulin. When there isn't enough insulin or cells stop responding to insulin, too much blood sugar stays in your bloodstream. Over time, that can cause serious health problems, such as diabetes. House roofing jobs rarely rank highly on lists of enjoyable and interesting home renovations. However, your perspective can change dramatically if your house starts to leak. The idea of a dry, tightly sealed home suddenly becomes quite appealing. The exterior appearance of your home can also be enhanced by a stunning new roof. The main problem facing authorities in emerging nations, small and major cities is solid waste management. The pressure placed on the municipal budget by the rising generation of such solid trash is the main cause of this. In addition to being expensive, solid waste management is hampered by a lack of knowledge of the various elements that influence the entire handling process. Female hummingbirds don flashy feathers to avoid being bothered by other hummingbirds. They tend to have bright blue heads and throats. But mate choice doesn't seem to drive these females' pretty plumage, since males don't appear to prefer the blue females. Therefore, bright colors may help ladybirds blend in with the guys, and as a result, feed for longer without harassment from other hummingbirds. Most societies throughout history employed some strategies to help people in poverty meet basic needs. Before the 20th century, religious groups and private charities often led such initiatives. Today, these are called welfare programs, and they usually take the form of government-provided subsidies for housing and healthcare.
For 2 summers in the Pioneer Mountains, the roar of rushing white water filled the air. But where the loud sounds prevailed, only gentle streams flowed by. These phantom rivers were part of an experiment led by ecologist Dylan. He and colleagues were testing a hypothesis that the sounds of nature influence where animals lived and how they forage. As climate change brings more wildfires to the western United States, a rare fungal infection, valley fever, has also been on the rise. It causes coughs, fevers and chest pain and can be deadly. The culprit fungi thrive in soils in California and the desert Southwest. Wildfires appear to stir up and send the soil-loving fungi into the air, where they can enter people's lungs.
Surgeons in New York City successfully attached a pig kidney to a human patient and watched the pinkish organ function normally for 54 hours. Such procedures have been done in non-human primates. However, this is the first time that a pig kidney has been transplanted into a human body and has not been immediately rejected. One of the great contributing factors to mental illness is the idea that we should at all costs and at all times be well. We suffer far more than we should because of how long it can take many of us until we allow ourselves to fall properly and usefully ill. Movies are an integral part of us. They mirror what we believe and how we coexist as people. It is easier to see our concerns, attitudes, flaws and strengths in films than it is to decipher them from our daily interactions. When our prevalent beliefs and ideologies are challenged in films, we are sometimes able to interrogate ourselves and embrace change.
In this course, we will explore how such things as department stores, nationally advertised brand name goods, mass produced cars, and suburbs transformed the American economy, society, and politics. The course is organized both thematically and chronologically. Each period deals with a new development in the history of consumer culture.
Food is one of the most important things you'll ever buy. And yet most people never bother to think about their food and where it comes from. People spend a lot more time worrying about what kind of blue jeans to wear, what kind of video games to play, and what kind of computers to buy. Global Management is a program specially designed to equip students with the knowledge and skills required to become an effective leader in diverse business contexts and varied intercultural settings. The program acknowledges that contemporary markets are increasingly complex in terms of culture and demand, that information and communication are crucial for success. The development of cognitive psychology arose as psychology from different theories, and so began exploring these dynamics concerning mind and environment, starting a movement from these prior dualist paradigms that prioritized cognition as systematic computation or exclusively behavior. In one particular version of the experiment, if the subject recalled a list correctly, the list length was increased by 1 for that type of material, and vice versa if it was recalled incorrectly. The theory is that people have a memory span of about 7 items for numbers, the same for letters that sound dissimilar and short words. A participant is presented with a window that displays circles and squares scattered across it. The participant is to identify whether there is a green circle on the window. In the featured search, The subject is presented with several trial windows that have blue squares or circles and one green circle or no green circle in it at all. Aerobic and anaerobic exercise have been studied concerning cognitive improvement. There appear to be short-term increases in attention span, verbal and visual memory in some studies. However, the effects are transient and diminish over time, after cessation of the physical activity. Exposing individuals with cognitive impairment to daily activities designed to stimulate thinking and memory in a social setting seems to improve cognition. Although study materials are small, and larger studies need to confirm the results, the effect of social cognitive stimulation seems to be larger than the effects of some drug treatments. In philosophy of mind, functionalism is the thesis that each and every mental state is constituted solely by its functional role, which means its causal relation to other mental states, sensory inputs, and behavioral outputs. Functionalism developed largely as an alternative to the identity theory of mind and behaviorism. Since a mental state is identified by a functional role, it is said to be realized on multiple levels. In other words, it is able to be manifested in various systems, even perhaps computers, so long as the system performs the appropriate functions. The action of the machine is determined by the symbol in the cell being scanned and a table of transition rules that serve as the machine's programming. Because of the infinite tape, a traditional Turing machine has an infinite amount of time to compute any particular function or any number of functions. The fundamental idea of psychofunctionalism is that psychology is an irreducibly complex science and that the terms that we use to describe the entities and properties of the mind in our best psychological theories cannot be redefined in terms of simple behavioral dispositions. There may be an infinite variety of physical realizations for all of the mechanisms, but what is important is only their role in the overall biological theory. In an analogous manner, the role of mental states, such as belief and desire, is determined by the functional or causal role that is designated for them within our best scientific psychological theory. The internal contents of propositional attitudes, for example, would consist exclusively in those aspects of them which have no relation with the external world and which bear the necessary functional properties that allow for relations with other internal mental states. The twin earth argument hinges on the assumption that experience with an imitation water would cause a different mental state than experience with natural water. However, since no one would notice the difference between the two waters, this assumption is likely false.